The celebration of the winter solstice, the Christmas time. In other cultures there are other celebrations, but it is a celebration in the spiritual sense of the birth of light, divine light, into the world. And the Christ babe was the symbol taken from ancient times in the winter solstice and in certain cultures where a different god was worshipped. This holiday of light, the birth of the light into the world, was adopted in the ancient Christian church to symbolize the coming of the spiritual light, the birth of the spiritual light, the Christ light, the divine light into the world. So the ancient tradition to celebrate that with the winter solstice, an attunement to the movement of the sun and the earth, the seasons and the forces of nature, aligning the astrology and the traditions of the ancient gods. Those early Christians realized that with the birth of their divine saint, their Christ was the birth of the light in the world. And so they took those ancient symbols, applied them to the time to celebrate the birth of Christ, not his actual birth time, but the symbolic time, the true birth, in alignment with the forces of nature. When that light comes into the world, that divine light moves out of the subtle spiritual realms into the physical realm, in the embodiment of an individual who can carry that light of divinity into the physical world. And by his mere presence, emanated to others, emanate divine love in such depth, such power that so many people are affected. In the times of Christ, when Jesus was born, the people surrounding him were not well educated. Mostly they were simple people. And so they related to stories, parables, to understand deeper truths. That is what spoke to these simple people who understood the seasons and the meaning of the seasons. They understood when the spring comes and the life comes and you plant the crops and you harvest, when they grow in the summer and you harvest in the fall, and when you store for the winter and the lean times. These are cycles that people understand. And so, understanding that Christ is the birth of the light, which will grow and bring the spring and the greater and greater influence of the sun to bring the plants to life and bring the food that is so needed. So the light of Christ brought not only spiritual light, but the seasonal light, the hope for the future. So that light is a symbol of hope, a symbol of faith that better times, brighter times will come. A knowledge that a great light is coming in the world. And when one who can embody that light fully is born into the world, a great blessing comes to the physical world, and a great blessing to all those people who might be around such a one. For there is the emanation of divinity. The divine essence, the divine love is always there, a shower of grace that is continually present. But due to the thickness of this physical world and the thoughts and emotions that accompany the physical body, the hearts and minds of people can become thinly associated with that divine presence and that divine love. So from time to time there is a need that occurs within human beings, within human society. There is a need for the Sadguru, for the one divine self, to embody in a great soul that can bring that truth to the world of form and color, to the world of physical existence, where the minds of people dwell, so that that bright spiritual truth, that bright spiritual love may be felt in the hearts of people, and those truths told so that people understand with their minds. And so all of the great saints and sages have brought this to the world. And those rare people who are embodiments, Mahasambhuti, the highly avowed embodiment, they bring the true light to the world so that others can see, can know the light in their hearts can be awakened. And that way, the spiritual love and spiritual light is not forgotten. And the darkness that people wander in is relieved. These great incarnations tend to occur in times when the society will be facing great turmoil and trouble, so that there is a need in the people's hearts and minds that they might find this light, this brightness, this divinity, this Christ light, this light of Buddha, this light of Krishna, this light of Shiva, this light of the Divine Mother. this light of the divine self of all beings. It is the way of the cosmos that light finds suitable expression in a suitable form during times when there is greatest need in the human society. In some of the darkest times, that light cannot be seen for the darkness of war, the darkness of greed, the darkness of lower desires that dominate the minds of people. But amid that darkness, that light is born. And so, in those dark times of struggle, in ancient Israel and the Eastern nations, a light came to shine, a child who was one capable to carry that light into the world. And from that, a great religion was formed, because people's hearts were so deeply impacted by that bright light brought into the world. And the very life of Christ became a parable of the journey towards enlightenment, of the death of the ego, sacrificed to the divine, and the resurrection, the transcendence when the death of the ego occurs into the divine realms, into the spiritual light. So the life of Christ became a parable, a story that people could understand. And somehow through that story, see the journey, the path to divinity. And for simple people, very ordinary people, not great sages or scholars, but ordinary people, this story of Christ, the story of the birth of the light, the teaching, the spreading of light in the world, the death of the physical self, the ego self, and the resurrection, the transcendence. Gave the imprint for the way to the divine for millions of people over thousands of years. Such was the power of the light manifesting in the world. And the symbols which were left for simple and ordinary people to understand the way home through the heart of Christ, through the one love. That was brought into the world, embodied in a direct passageway to the divine, infinite self of all beings. The way was simply put for simple people, people who did not have education, did not intellectually understand or need to understand the complexities of spiritual life. They were not jnanis. They were ordinary, simple people, given a path of the heart. Christianity is bhakti yoga. Path of the heart. To the heart, to the divine. So Christ taught, I am one with my Father. I am the way, the truth, and the light. And so he, to simple people, he became that light, the very embodiment of that light, into which they could merge themselves, surrender completely to that brilliance, and merge into divine being. And so that light has shone for thousands of years, that was left upon the planet, a way, a path, given by grace to the living beings. A path of the heart, a simple path, a path of love. And at this time, in many countries affected by this religion, it is to honor that path, to honor that light born into the world. So that it can be visible and a way home to the light of the divine self, to the love which is a shower of grace, always there, but that becomes imperceivable to the minds of people immersed in physical world. So the great souls bring the light visible in the world. May that light continue to shine, always shine, from all those great saints and sages, all those beings who have embodied the blessings of the divinity, the shower of grace and infinite love. May it continue to flow, to be visible, to light the way in the darkness. May you all find that light, that heart of Christ, that love, that shower of grace that is always there. And may that light illumine your way home again. Darkness can never stay for long. The light of the infinite will always find a way to shine bright even in the most dense and physical world. In all realms, it will continue to shine, even in the darkest of times. It will be born and born again. Take that light in your heart and let it grow as the sun grows in the sky. All right?